And welcome in, friends, future friends, one and all, to the Sports and the World podcast here. I'm LaDarius. Hope you're well and safe out there, whenever and however you're watching us. And, well, folks, let's just get right to it. She's been on the show numerous. I think I use both hands. I think fair to say for that. It feels like it. If I'm wrong, listen. Math is
Oh, no, it's definitely been a lot.
it's a lot. So yeah, we'll trust. We'll trust what she said. Because listen, I use enough math at the job. Anyway, enough about me. It's the amazing, it's the wonderful Tanya Ray Fox. So FS1, and how are you, my friend?
Really, really good. I mean, this is probably the most animated I'm going to be today. It's a Tuesday. It's just like giving Tuesday vibes. So, hopefully talk about wrestling will get me amped up.
I think it will. I think it's fair to say because we texted one another during both nights. I think it's fair to say there's plenty of amped up material, especially for a couple of these matches. But we'll
Yeah.
get to it. So let's just jump right onto it. Night one of WrestleMania. It kicked off with Jey Uso, Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Let's get your thoughts on it, and I'll say some thoughts on the back end.
Well, obviously, I've been waiting for Jay to get this title for like years now at this point. I'm one of the largest Jay stands out there, big Jay guy. Um, so I thought the moment, like, I understood them opening the show with it. Obviously, it was kind of a weird WrestleMania to have like a match that big, open it up because they had the triple threat. But the match itself, I think it was a weird Gunter performance, and considering how long Jay had been, working up to that moment, obviously it really earned the crowd reaction. Very much gave a like it was very much finish the story vibes a la Cody Rhodes, and the crowd was ready for it. And I am really, really perplexed by the early lazy tap out. Um, it seemed disrespectful to the moment, and it's not anything I've ever seen from Gunter before. I know people have said, like, in this title reign that he hasn't really brought it the same way he did before with the other title run, and maybe maybe there's a fatigue to it, or I don't know. But it really, really rubbed me the wrong way that Jay didn't get the match, but specifically the finish that he should have. Obviously, the celebrations and everything on Raw last night were great, but it was underwhelming for such a big moment to me.
Yeah, you're not the only person that said that, and I think like the tap out thing, I understand what they were trying to do because throughout like the feud building up, when Gunther would go to the ring, he would always kind of put Jay in that same hole. And I get the throw, but it just felt that I don't know. It to me, I agree with what you're saying. It's just like this particular championship reign, something just felt off, and it's not on Jay necessarily, and it's not on good. It's just like I said, the IC run was just something on a whole different level. And I guess given the moment and given that it is WrestleMania, I think that's why it kind of feels the way it feels. Like had this been at like another PLE, we maybe wouldn't necessarily have the same vibes, in my opinion. But given that it's the biggest show in your company, and you kind of get that, it's fine. And then the moment, like you say afterwards, brother Jimmy in there, and it interacts with the crowd. It was just a great moment for Jay, and just kind of curious to see where he goes trajectory wise and who his next opponent is.
Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go with it. It's interesting. Obviously, Sammy is back now, and that presents an interesting angle with the Usos back together. I don't know if Sammy is gonna want his shot or what, but we know Sammy has been waiting just as long as Jay at this point to get that title run too. So, I mean, he's held titles, but like, he wants this one. So I don't know. I love seeing them together, but also kind of the timing is interesting for Sammy to come back right after WrestleMania.
Yeah, it super is. And if you watched Raw, and it felt like the camera work was just, I praise the camera work at Netflix because I'm a big like camera work production guy. And I look and I go, like they teased it, like, oh, Sammy's gonna do something when Jay was on the ropes doing the yeet thing, and then Sammy was kind of like behind, and I'm like, I felt like you felt the tension, but nothing happened. And I feel that potentially, I think Sammy, similar, like you said, similar kind of path. I would not be shocked if that's the route they go, because I'm thinking more toward, like, I'm not disrespecting Backlash. Like, I'm not disrespecting Backlash. Be like, oh, you're just skipping the World Backlash. I'm not disrespecting it. I'm looking at SummerSlam. Like, I'm looking down the
I
road.
hate
Like,
when people say stuff like that. It's obviously like between now and then is the road to SummerSlam.
right?
I mean,
It's like when,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, but people say that it's like, oh, I'm not overlooking Backlash. I'm just looking like toward the
It's
next
just
bigger.
obvious that the big, like the culmination of the storyline or the big match or whatever else is going to take place at SummerSlam. Backlash might set
Correct.
it up. There might be an initial match, like whatever, but like we know which PLEs are set up for like culminating matches and which ones are, storytelling process type PLEs. And so everybody needs to relax.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's cool it down, folks.
Yeah.
Cool it down. Now, next match, tag for the the World Tag Team Championship, the New Day versus the War Raiders. Any thoughts on this? And were you happy that the New Day got their 12th championship? Championship number 12. I see it all over your face that you're excited. I know you can't contain it,
No, I mean, I
but
love the New Day. I even don't, I mean, I didn't want I never wanted New Day to go heel, whatever, but Dark New Day is, they're both great. So they're great performers. And so I'm always going to enjoy them being in a PLE, being in the ring. Like I love it. They deserve obviously to have record setting titles, right? Like that's, I mean, between them and the Usos, they're just going to go back and forth on that until, and they're old. So like, it's time to get to do these things, right? I just don't the match didn't really matter to me in the grand scheme of things. I think in general, like the tags this year have just been like really, you're just like really feeling the absence of, like, there's a lot of really good tag teams, like really, really good tag teams that are super fun to watch on Raw and SmackDown, but the storylines aren't there for a big WrestleMania moment the way they have been in the past. So I just think I was feeling that more than anything. It's like I not like War Raiders great, New Day great. Didn't really care how it turned out because either way, Dark New Day is kind of on a specific trajectory and they're clearly not where they're building to something, right? Whether it's Big E like confronting them in some way again or whatever. And it didn't really seem to like further that much more than just it felt much more like a filler match than you normally get at a WrestleMania.
yeah, I agree. Like the best thing about that match, I think it was the cost. I think it was the outfits, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, it's like sometimes it feels like they were the Oscars, like, oh, the Oscars weren't great, but man, the outfits are fantastic. And that's how
Yeah.
I don't want to throw shade at the New Day. Like, it was like a throwback to like Giant Gonzalez, who fought the Undertaker at WrestleMania 9, which was last held in Vegas. So, which was also held in Vegas. So, like, other than that, I'm like you. I said this when, on the wrestling, it's like this. I hope it leads to something, because the Raw tag team division is not great. Like, SmackDown feels to be kind of
Yeah.
light years ahead by comparison, and I hope we get something. Like, we get a couple NXT tag, because something just feels like, to me. I look at Fraxy, I'm like, call those guys, like, do something, because it just feels.
But they have to they have to invest in the storylines around it, because I actually don't think the tag team talent is like a super big issue. It's just that they're not giving them. I mean, there's really, really macro. There's macro criticisms that can be made about what like Triple H has decided to focus on in terms of these big moments, and it's definitely leaving specific aspects of the roster kind of unkempt, right? Like the storylines that are great are incredible, but we're not getting the kind of consistency that we were getting for the last couple of years, or like the first sort of iteration of Triple H as the creative director of the company. And I think, I mean, I think Karrion Kross is taking care of that criticism all on his own, but I tend to agree with him. And I think that the tag team division is suffering for it. But I think the talent there it's there.
Yeah, listen, all I got, Karrion Cross was cooking. Like
I
it's
love
like
it.
it's like when you just said stop me when I'm telling. He
Uh-huh.
wasn't really telling any lies. It's like
No, he didn't. He didn't tell a single lie. No,
it,
not a one. And he
it
delivered it so effectively.
yeah,
Just.
like if there was a way to convey it, that's the way to convey it.
Mm-hmm.
And shifting gears, let's talk about one of my personal favorite matches: Jade Cargill versus Naomi. I, I just the job by both in this match, the storytelling to me, and I say this all the time. I'm big on storytelling, and you kind of saw it play out in the ring. And once it was a reminder of like what Jade Cargill has, you simply just cannot teach. And Naomi put on a performance as well. But let me get your thoughts on the match.
Yeah, I mean that's an example of a storyline that has so much stakes to it, right? Like there's a lot to care about there. So the match, I was always going to care about it in general. And I love when there's a match like that that's not a title match that I'm like, the outcome really matters, right? And it did somewhat obviously affect what I thought might happen in Bianca's triple threat. So that was interesting too. It was like, depending on how this goes, whatever else, because the storyline is obviously ongoing. And it seems like it's going to continue to like simmer for a while. Naomi is to me like such a important part of the women's division in a way that I feel like they're finally trying to address in character, like on the shows. They're finally allowing her to say what she should be able to say about herself as not only in a woman in the women's division and somebody who's been around for a long time helping to build it, but as a Black woman and what she has done for other Black women wrestlers, including Bianca and Jade Cargill. I like that that's a part of it. And then also like Jade and Naomi also have different styles, and seeing them in the ring together is, that's like really fun for me. And Jade's come a long way with her, like just since she really started in WWE, her acting and her ability to kind of like convey the storyline has really improved super significantly. Naomi to me is finally kicking into a gear that I think she already had. I always thought Naomi was good on the mic. I always thought she was really good at the backstage stuff and like the narrative building, but they're finally like letting her cut the like intense promos, and she's clearly a really good actor. So seeing that kind of play itself out in the ring too is cool. I'm not super it's funny, like I'm not even super invested in how this ends. More than like I don't have a side, right? I don't really like I kind of am like I'm maybe if I were to pick a side, I'd pick Naomi's because I just love her and I'm so loyal to her, right? So if I was going to, I'm kind of on the heel side of things, but I don't. It's more about seeing how it plays out between the two of them and Bianca, and just caring about the three of them as wrestlers so much that I was always going to enjoy the match as long as they put on, a good show and were able to execute, and they did.
Yeah, and just to put a kind of thoughts on it, it's like this. I think to your point, I think it's integral to the point you talk about with Naomi, and it's a conversation people don't like to have, but it has to be had. Like, because we all know what happened with her and like Sasha Banks now, and then for her to leave the company and come back, and people understand that Naomi's kind of she's a trailblazer to a certain degree, because
I think
given
to a complete degree.
I think I the reason why I say to a certain degree is that I think given, like, I tell people this, like, Naomi, the heel change was so important to this story, and when you watch the vignettes of her on SmackDown, it's like that's the Naomi, that's the story, and I'm like you, I don't have, I'm not good at picking sides anyway. Well, on to certain wrestlers I am, but like in terms of this, in terms of Jade, or like I like I'm curious to see what, because listen, there's a lot more to them and to Bianca, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But for me, this match was all about showcasing, once again, Naomi showcasing her talent, because I hope people aren't sleeping on her still. And she's phenomenal, and you can kind of see the work put in. And to your point, I said this, it's like when you go from one company to another, you kind of have to do things their way and learn how they do things. And once you kind of figure out, some of the things don't change, but just figure out what they do a little bit differently, and then it kind of works. And I think we kind of see that with Jade and Naomi. And this, I think, when Bianca gets thrown into this, it, once again, storyline. I think you can push this bad boy. I could argue SummerSlam and beyond. I can argue because I think it's that integral. We might see more.
Oh yeah,
more players kind of per se get involved in this as well.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely think they could carry this for a while.
And so from a great match to me, listen, for the Jacob Fatu, listen, my guy. Jacob Fatu has been my guy. He faced the LA Knight for the United States. But the minute I saw Jacob Fatu on my television, I said, that guy has to have a belt on him immediately. He just carries this presence. And just like the personality works for me, all of it works. All the boxes check for me for Jacob Fatu. And even and then for him to kind of overshadow Solo, which is something folks kind of need to look out for as a potential thing, because Solo could kind of get a little bit jealous there on the back end. Could be like a little situation, like a Salieri. It could be kind of that sort of situation there. But I know it's history, folks. Look it up. I know things beyond wrestling. Now, I try to throw in much education as I can, and then learn what I don't know. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on Fatu, the match for LA Knight, him winning the championships, and whatever else your thoughts on the match.
Yeah, I think that I know a lot of people wanted Jacob Fatu to get a title, really quickly. I didn't necessarily feel like that. I think there's certain wrestlers who don't need it, and that's a really tough thing to be in, right? Like, you don't want to tell a wrestler like, "Oh, you don't need it. You're so good. You make yourself so relevant all the time that you don't need a title." And so I think, considering he's been in the company for such a short amount of time, I just haven't really felt the need to as far as being promoted up to WWE. I've just been really enjoying his role in the show and kind of seeing where he's going in his relationship with Solo. So to me, I was sort of fine with him winning it, but I don't think he needed it at all. And I think that LA Knight is somebody who did need it a little bit more, and kind of the type of wrestler that he is, the type of performer that he is, it kind of works to his character in a very specific way. And also I just see that LA Knight's, in his early 40s, and I don't know how much time he has to keep doing this. And I just, when someone's kind of in the pocket of their opportunity, I obviously want to see it last as long as possible. But also Jacob Fatu having the belt opens things up. It opens things up to have another war with this other bloodline faction and with Solo and whatever else, or to who the hell knows, maybe he continues to have, I don't know what their plan is for LA Knight from here, but there's still opportunities for that storyline to continue. And I think that he's a super special performer and a super special presence. He does outshine basically everybody that he's on camera with. And that's, like I said, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because I'm like, you can be in a promo with basically anybody, and I'm paying attention to what you're doing. You can be in the ring with basically anybody, and I'm paying attention to what you're doing. But since he does have the title, I am interested to see how he handles it and kind of what his approach is, because he's a weird, intense character. And I always find that fascinating when dudes like that have these titles, because they're not their whole thing is he's a monster, he's a practically criminal, blah blah blah. And I don't know, it's just okay, I guess we'll see what happens. Let's see how much of a monster he is. It's hard to buy that he's the most dangerous man out there when Braun Breaker is currently trying to constantly kill people, spear people into hell. So we'll see.
Yeah, it just people. Some of these guys. Listen, these spears are it's like you're trying to top one another. It's like, what about safety? And we'll worry about that later. Anyway, It's like safety optional, defense optional. People just like the aggression. You worry about
Uh-huh.
the safety part later. But like I say, like I say with Jacob, like to your point, to me, he's just this person. You can just go. It's pretty limitless. I think Solo's the way to go. Simply because like Solo walked him down. Kind of went. When he was out there for his entrance, and but a part of like me feels like Solo's gonna get jealous that a
Oh,
guy
definitely.
who's gonna
Yeah.
come in. This guy came in well after me,
It
and this
almost
guy,
seems too obvious, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
Solo's still the title, so it is what it is, but, like, it almost seems so obvious that he would get jealous and, like, just kinda be that it's like, okay, well, if that's the story, again, like, I don't know if you needed the title to do it, but whatever.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. It's like did they need? I mean, I'm just glad he has the title. Like, I guess I'll put it in that. I guess I'm glad he has the title. The next match, I don't know. I don't. It had El Grande Americano versus Ray Phoenix, who replaced Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And this match was on the fly. It's like, and you could kind of tell in this match, it's like the communication they were, calling the spot because like Rey Mysterio was legit. I'm assuming legit heard from Friday or from the match he had previously. So, any thoughts on El Grande Americano versus Ray Phoenix or Phoenix?
Uh, I think El Grande Americano is, definitely supposed to be a throwback to a time when they were being, uh let's just say not woke, right? Um, I don't love the cultural appropriation angle, and I do feel like that what they're probably trying to do is like he's going to be taken down by the real luchadors. Like they're hitching their wagon to AAA, and like they're doing all these things that are like we're really like trying to bring both like traditional and non-traditional like lucha libre and like foreground it. So I imagine that in their mind, it's like this is the best way to like they have to take down the imposter. Um, I just I still don't it doesn't do anything for me, the awkwardness and the uncomfortability of somebody, um, taking on the whole, uh, persona and style of a luchador. I realize that you're supposed to not like it, but I don't not like it as, like, a wrestling fan, like, I don't find it fun or interesting to watch. Um, I think Chad Gable's a really good wrestler on his own in the style that he does, and, um, I thought what he had going was good, and this to me is one of those things that I feel like you're gonna look back on and be like, "Why did you do that?" Like, "Why did you do that? You didn't we don't need to create like a race war um angle of this like American nationalism type vibe in order to promote the greatness of lucha libre, and it seems flat and one note and uncreative and lazy.
Yeah, and my thing is this: like, I get what people, but my bigger thing is that I think like, and they're doing it in pockets because on Raw, if you saw when Raquel Rodriguez went to McAfee and was trying to talk to McAfee, and it was like, oh, I don't speak I just went, oh no. It's one of those things where like people, I don't think people in the moment picked up on it, but it's like I guess with my bat like hearing, I heard it and I went, did he say what I thought he said? And then when I saw it online, I said, oh, he did say it. And it's one of those things because you covered it perfectly, so I don't want to cross the thoughts because I agree. I think I understand the entertainment is great, but it's going to be when you look back at this like 5, 10, 15 years, like WWE has a history of doing that with characters specific, where it's like, yeah, the intention you thought it was going to be didn't end up, in the grand scheme of things, just simply is not it. And I think, I want to see how long it lasts because to me, I think once they realize it's flat and it's kind of hopefully they kind of transition out because Chad Gable is a terrific wrestler. And there's plenty of talent in there that you could have not done that, did this. But like for the entertainment, sure, but there's always long term repercussions. I feel when you do things like this, and we've seen it in wrestling, WWE specifically with some of their characters. You know, like they're like I think they've done blackface and stuff like that. They think, oh, it's great, but then you look back at it like 20, like no, it's not great because of the world we live in. It's not. It was never right then, and it's definitely not right now. So that's my 2.5 cents there. I give myself a half a cent for go look at the economy. You'll see why. Anyway,
Yeah, inflation.
yeah, exactly. Check out the economy. Yeah, yeah. When I was doing this, yeah, wasn't it 2 cents? Yes, yeah, half a cent. Hey,
Exactly.
I'm saying blame who you blame. I'm not calling out names. I'm just saying resembles a fruit. But you know what? No, I'm going back to this. I'm going back to this. I'm like, it's like it. So this next match involves someone I know that you love, and we talked about it's Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Here, the next to last match on night one. I'm curious. I shared my thoughts. I'll share them briefly again, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on the match. You know how Charlotte, because a lot of people, oh boy, a lot of people had some things to say about Charlotte after this match, but I tried to gear it toward Tiffany taking. Oh my god, Tiffany looked great in this match, but the conversation ended up being more about Charlotte Flair, which it's kind of I don't want to say unfortunate because I think this was Tiffany Stratton's moment, her first WrestleMania champion. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the match and anything, and your thoughts about anything surrounding it, the common things of that nature.
Yeah, that's the only match I went back and rewatched after the fact, just because I wanted to kind of get a handle on my thoughts on it. Because I actually don't think Tiffany wrestled well. I don't think Charlotte wrestled well. I don't think either one of them did a good job. The timing was off. I think that they were clunky. They didn't have chemistry, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think also to some extent it made the griminess and like almost recklessness of the match gave it a little bit of grit that Tiffy has lacked, obviously, because of the character that she has. But in the end, because she kind of got roughed up and there was the teeth and the blood and all that stuff, I think it worked to her advantage. Luckily, right? It just ended up kind of making her look a lot more badass. And it's pretty clear that Charlotte still has a ton of rust and some stuff to like work on. I think Tiffy let the moment was a little bit big for her. There was definitely nerves and timing issues. She's a really good they're both really good wrestlers. Like that's just not the issue. And there definitely isn't like real, there's some tension beyond the ring that affects what you're able to do there, especially when one of you is kind of battling the nerves of the moment and the other one is battling ring rust and some like, real issues with the stuff within the company too. So I think it's just like it worked out well that by the end I was like, you know what, Tiffy kind of looks like she can grind it out in a tough moment and come out, and she didn't shy away from looking like roughed up. She like embraced it. She by the end had really, to me, kind of been like, okay, I really hope that she's able to lean into this part of her character a little bit more, because it added a dimension that she hasn't had prior to this. Her ring performances are always really good. She's so athletic, and but the other stuff has left me like lacking. I don't love her mic skills or her promos specifically, but the character itself and her performances in the ring and her athleticism always won me over. So the fact that that little added layer is there now, I hope she leans into it, because I thought it ended up making the match worthwhile.
Yeah, and to your point, listen, not their best moment, but I look at Tiffany and I go, given the circumstances, because I'm gonna say this before we get to the main event. I said from the very beginning they went about this the wrong way. Like they tried to make Charlotte try to look like a low key, like a tweener in a face, and I'm like, that's the problem. Like I understand she's coming off the injury. Let Charlotte be the heel. Charlotte, some people are just natural heels, natural faces. And like in that crowd that Cleveland went when she came back, it felt like Showtime at the Apollo. They were not trying to hear any of what she was saying. And I was just waiting for the Sandman to come and take her out of the, because it was not saying it was her fault, but it just felt like, don't make somebody, she's always, the whole face thing she had years back was okay. But given that Tiffany, you just made Tiffany the heel to the face, like let her kind of shine. And then it just felt things like broke down, especially in that promo where Tiffany brought up
Yeah.
the divorces, and then
Yeah.
and it's like, and what people, I think also people saw as well, like the crowd, it felt like the crowd got to Charlotte, which felt odd, given that Charlotte has always been, it's like you could tell like Charlotte didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no. And I always compare it to like you're in the batter's box and you're thinking that pitcher's gonna throw me a fastball, and you see it's a changeup and you don't know how to hit, a changeup or the curve. That's what it felt like. And
Yeah.
the match was, like I say, given the circumstances, not Charlotte's best night, not Tiffany's best night. Tiffany, under the circumstances, I guess looked okay, but neither one. It's one of those things where you have to really look at it at a curve, because neither one looked great.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not a knock on, like Tiffany's going to be great, and then Charlotte is great. I just want to know what's next for Charlotte, because I asked the question, what's next for Charlotte? Because
Yeah. Well, I
it's
mean, Becky's back, and there's like, who knows what they're doing with Bailey? Like, there's a lot going on. Um, I never worry about what they're gonna do with Charlotte, because it's more about like, is she like gonna be able to like mentally, clock in
yeah,
and get herself, into solid ring shape, which she's in amazing shape, but like, um, she might be in a better spot to wrestle than it even looked against Tiffy, just because clearly they don't have chemistry, and that's like kind of a problem. And their communication in the ring is not going to be great under the circumstances. So, but I never worry about I mean, I don't worry about Charlotte. I don't worry about Becky. I don't worry about Bailey. I don't worry about Naomi. Like these people like know what they're doing. So it's like it's a matter of whether or not Hunter's gonna get his shit together with the women's division and figure out what the hell's going on. Because outside of the main storylines of like Becky and of Naomi and Jade and Bianca and whatever Rhea Ripley is doing, because she's like always perfect, it's a little off, right? So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. How did you know I was wearing my Becky Lynch shirt? I don't know how you knew, but like,
obviously.
no biases here on the Sports in the World. There's no biases here. We call things down the middle. Sometimes maybe to the
Justice,
left.
justice for Pam. Justice for my girl Pam. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, things happen. That's the
We'll
official statement
see.
of the
We'll see what happens. Something's got to go down.
yeah. And then let's see. I got a comment here. Oh no. John says, "What's best for Charlotte is retirement." I don't think retirement is the answer.
You don't need it. We don't need to talk. Like, we don't need to do that. Like we've got wrestlers who are in their 40s and 50s. Like, it's
Yeah,
not. I mean, Randy Orton has been wrestling at like 40% for years, right?
mm-mm.
Physically. It's just about getting the opportunity to like land in the spot you're supposed to land. And there are certain wrestlers that should be able to do whatever they want until the time has come. And she's one of them, regardless of like, where
Yeah,
people land on her as a character.
yeah. And then the man. Yeah, listen.
Didn't he already do that? Didn't she?
Huh?
Didn't Becky do that last night?
Yeah, well, in terms of, yeah, I think he's just recap. Yeah, like listen.
Oh, okay.
All I'm saying is that, was I smiling when it happened? That's a no comment from me. Like, was I was like,
I don't.
because,
You are way too like forgiving of everything Becky does. It's so boring. The whole thing happening. I mean, we could just right now talk about the fact that obviously she stepped in and they won that title and
yeah,
then lost
yeah,
it back
yeah,
to which Liv and Raquel should have the title. It's the better pair to have the
right,
title. It makes the most sense. Liv
yeah,
is on an absolute heater. Like it's perfect. Why they won it in that spot in the first place very much feels like we can't let Becky Lynch lose at WrestleMania, which is really stupid. She of course can like totally handle losing at WrestleMania. But like this isn't a Becky thing. It was so lazy and boring. I'm telling you, it didn't move anything for me. What I want to see is now there be like them write whatever happened with Bailey into the storyline and have Bailey and Becky run a program together, because like I want to know justice for Bailey, and Becky's in it. She already said she's back, she's full time. So like, let's get it cooking now. Although I know she turned heel on Lyra, so maybe Becky can come back in and Bailey can come back in and defend her former partner.
All I'm going to say is that Becky Lynch is innocent until proven guilty, because I think somebody else attacked Bailey. I think I have a theory.
I don't think it was. I don't even. Are they even trying to say that it was like? Are they trying to insinuate that Becky Naomi'd her? Is that what they're trying to?
Yeah, and it's like, no, I think it's somebody else. And to me, I really do believe that it's Roxanne Perez, that if in terms of like, because I kind of felt they had something there, and then all of a sudden, I think I just feel that I always felt it was Roxanne Perez. I'm like, oh, Roxanne Perez did that. It's like it felt like it felt obvious, and I'm like, we'll see where they'll go. But
yeah.
But speaking of, so that's one less match we're talking about for night 2. We already talked about the tag team, so we're done with that. Speaking of main events, listen, you want to talk Seth, Roman, Punk.
Now, I don't really remember this match that well. I'm just kidding.
I know it's kind of vague. I'm like, did something big happen?
It's hard to recall what was going on.
Did something big
I think
happen?
it's funny that like the two triple threats, and they're kind of like back to back in the conversation, so they can maybe bleed over to each other. But like, they were the two best matches of WrestleMania. Executed wise, storyline wise, all of it. I just think they were the two best matches, sort of like by like a significant margin. Going into it, I think everybody agreed the match set up to be the best match with the best story was the triple threat with Seth, Roman, and Punk. That was nobody. I don't think I talked to a single person who thought that wasn't going to be kind of the match of Mania. And for it to live up to the hype, not just storyline wise, not just with like Heyman betraying Punk and Roman in this very dramatic, very cinematic way, but the fact that they wrestled the way that they did, I feel like we always talk about the storyline so much, especially when it involves somebody like Roman or Cody or the people who are these like really big, Seth and Punk. All these people are just like larger than life in the company. So we're always talking about the storyline, but the wrestling itself was amazing. Like the match itself until they got to the chair was incredibly captivating, and they all have very different styles, and they all have really good chemistry with each other. And Seth specifically has such good chemistry with Roman and Punk, like separately. And I continue to point out that Seth Rollins is essential. Like to me, Seth Rollins is the most important cog in WWE and has been for a while. I think it's so easy to get distracted by the bloodline and other stories, but at the heart of all of it, involved in all of it, constantly, consistently being so important and performing at the highest level, Seth is always there. And so for it to culminate in Paul Heyman, the most important figure, non-wrestling figure in WWE, for it to culminate with him turning on his two best friends to align himself with Seth as like a heel duo, just narratively makes so much sense. Anytime there's a storyline where Paul Heyman is involved, it makes the most sense. Paul Heyman understands narrative storytelling in a way that I don't think everybody writing for WWE does. So people who are graced to be in those storylines end up getting these opportunities. And what he's doing with Seth is a culmination of like years and years of work that Seth's been doing post the Shield, but specifically in the last 3 or 4 years since Cody Rhodes came back and since the bloodline really kicked into high gear. So, I think it ties into the women's triple threat so much, where it's just like you have these 3 women who their chemistry with each other is undeniable. There's a lot of trust and mutual respect and and fury about landing in the spot that you're in with people, right? Like there's so much anger between Seth and Roman about the fact that they are not friends, that they have like that their relationship is so strained. Like they neither one of them is comfortable with it. There's so much frustration from Rhea that Io and Bianca have turned on her because they were like there's real stakes to the relationships that are being fractured in the matches. And when you have three of the best like wrestlers in their respective styles in a ring at the same time, that's what you get. And triple threats can be hit or miss. We've seen this 1,000 times that like a lot of times triple threats can be like a real letdown. And so for both of those matches to be the matches of their respective nights, because they were put together so well and the storyline fit so well, especially for the women, they didn't have to put a ton of work into that. Those women just made it what it was. You know, they didn't have Paul Heyman with his fingers in it, you know, writing it. That was them just being compelling and captivating. And for night one to end that way and night two to kick off the way that it did there, to me kind of like saved the weekend.
You know what? This is why I have you on. Sometimes I sit back and I just go, I love listening to you talk. And well, you know that, you know. But let the audience listening and or watching know that everything you said, people didn't understand the comparison, and you explained it very well. Because my thing is that when you look at the triple threats, you look at Seth, Roman, and Punk. Really, people were focusing on Roman, Punk, but you should have been focusing on Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins has been a guy. It's like, to your point, to me, he's been that way for over a decade. Like this, they trusted him when Cody Rhodes made his huge return. Who did they trust? They trusted Seth. Who did they trust to put in 3 matches against Cody Rhodes? They trusted Seth. Who did they trust to put the inaugural World Heavyweight? They trusted Seth. And when people understand, like WrestleMania 40, he was a cog. WrestleMania 41, he became the core of this. And he was tied in with every single person. And I felt that people kind of, I don't want to say lose sight because I think they knew, but it just kind of felt like you're starting to see how important Seth really is and how he's always been for at least a decade. And I've said whether he was the Messiah, whether he was, whatever, when he was authority, whatever he was always the guy. And I think people had to see, and like that match ended so great. It was cinematic. It was like, listen, it was like Spike Lee, Martin Scorsese, Hitchcock. It was just great. It just felt like a movie, and it was great. And then it was a perfect transition by you, by the way. Perfect a chef's kiss transition tonight too, because you're right about
podcaster.
Yeah, you see, this is why I have you on, because sometimes it's like you keep me on the road, and I don't know what I do. I just I show up. That's what I say. I show up. They go like, and I just go, oh, this is what I say. Okay, fine, no notes. Now, Tanya's on here. Yeah, yeah, we're good. I'll just show up, and to kind of tie in, to me, out of that triple threat, we're getting Bianca and Rhea, I believe, as a feud, possibly. Something that I've been wanting for a long.
I would hope so. Yeah,
for a long time, and I'm hoping. Even when I saw like, oh, we're gonna get it, and it's like it's gonna be great. And Io, people just kind of left out Io, and I'm like, it felt similar to the triple threat that closed out night one. You're forgetting, like, Io has been fantastic as champion. The things she can do in the ring, and then I loved it when she faced Stephanie Vacour and Raw. Like, Io Sky is just,
all 3 of them are such stars in like these very specific ways that you have, like, it was like I had a hard time, like, even, I mean, I'm a Bianca girl at heart, but like the Rhea and Io are so perfect as performers as well. and a star in, with a trash can on her head and jumping off the top of the cage. Like she does, especially considering that she is so limited with English, like her ability to connect with an American crowd, I think is really, we've seen a lot of incredible Japanese wrestlers come to the industry. I love Shinsuke. I love Asuka. They're Hall of Famers. Like they're, so special. But I think that EO uses the ring and her relationships with the other women so intelligently, and it translates to the crowd. You can just tell how much the crowd loves her. And I think anyone who won that match was going to get that response from the crowd, which was like, that was kind of well, Bianca's actually kind of heel right now. But wait, hold on. While I'm on this, because we only have like 15 more minutes, I cannot leave at some point without talking about the fact that because I love a natural heel to face turn. We got a natural heel to face turn, totally unscheduled, unprompted, unwritten, with Dominic Mysterio. And I didn't see it coming. I did not know. Did you know that this was going to happen? That he was going to leave there to cheers? Because he didn't seem to know.
He didn't. And you could tell how genuinely shocked he was. The WrestleMania post show. Yeah. And it's like we went from a plethora of boos, and then they're cheering this guy like he won.
He couldn't.
He won the Super Bowl. Like
when
he couldn't
do no
wrong.
Back down the ramp to get back. Like it was so funny because he was gonna do the heel thing, walk out, and like whatever. And he got up the ramp, and he was like, "Hold up, do you guys want me to go celebrate in the ring with you right now?" And so he did, and everybody. It was so cool. I think it's so hard because you never know when that's gonna happen. You never know when a crowd is just gonna decide that they're gonna. And you can't write it. You just cannot script these things. Like it happened with Seth a few years ago when they started singing his song in Europe, and suddenly his entrances were different, and suddenly he was just face. Like it was, and he wasn't acting any different. And I don't think Dom's going to act that different, but people have decided that they are all in on Dom. And I thought it was like just such a great organic moment for somebody who's like had to work really hard to get to the spot that he's in with his character and with his wrestling. It hasn't been smooth, but it's been interesting. And I've never been like the world's biggest Dominic Mysterio fan, but I have really liked what he's been doing. So to see it, and to see the crowd just decide it in that moment, with people who were much, everybody would have loved to see Finn win, right? Like Finn's, a very much a fan favorite, cult favorite. And he pinned Finn, and they were still like, "Fuck it, like, well, we ball. We're team Dom,"
Oh man, so
I had to. Sorry, I know I skipped ahead, but I just had to bring that up because it's really the only thing worth talking about in that match, honestly.
Yeah, it and it's like it was similar to the crowd getting a little pop when Randy Orton came out 20th WrestleMania, and I'm like, man, I feel old because it has been 20. I've seen every part, every single anyway. Thanks a lot, Randall. Thanks a lot, Randall, for that. But like 20? Like my guy, I was in high school. What are you doing? Like I was. Anyway, I'm like, but like when Joe Hendry came out and you saw the pop, the crowd. I think like it's some of those things. That's what I love about wrestling. That's what I love about PLEs in general, is that you don't know the reactions until they happen. Yeah. And like the Dom reaction, you want to talk about? I was watching and I'm like, oh. He was like, he got up that long ramp that Triple H loves to do. He said, wait a minute. He started looking around, like, and he just went back and did it. It's like, yeah. It was so great. And that's what made that's what made the Joe Hendry and Randy Orton match great, was because it's like both are both are faced by nature. But when Randy Orton, comes in and he not tased. RKO'd, I'm sorry. And he RKO'd like Joe Hendry's like, okay, cool. And then he does it again, like he helps him up. He goes, and he does it again. And I'm like, listen, I love Joe Hendry, but I love an RKO because here's what he did. The best RKO that he ever did, in my opinion, is when he RKO'd Hulk Hogan. That to me Randy was already in the Hall of Fame, but we can put him in now after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I love a well shot RKO too. The way that it was framed,
yeah.
and I mean, the WWE did such a good job of that. But like the framed of the classic Joe Hendry turnaround with the big smile and him literally coming out of the frame into the frame with the RKO is so. It's you can't like you can't overstate how important that is to the moment. Because I mean, in the crowd, like they saw it coming, whatever, and it was still huge. But for viewers watching at home, it was this like beautiful, like literally he came in from out of frame and it was just great.
So great. Like I said, our time is winding. So let's, thoughts on, I think the biggest thing I got out of the Drew McIntyre Damian Priest match was just, I've been trying to tell people like Drew McIntyre is a whole, like the fact that he just got the camera from his brother and just like bored at work. Like
iconic. His heel run right now is really good, and I really hope that now that he's won that match, that they're gonna let him kind of get back in these like main event type mixes, because I think he's in a groove. And I love Damian Priest. And I don't want, it's not that I'm not pro Damian Priest. I just think that sometimes you can tell somebody's got like a thing going that's working, and I think what Drew is doing is working really well. It's working really well for what it seems like Triple H might want to with the crossover with social media and stuff. And like, I just hope he gets the opportunity, because I think this is like a really interesting version of Drew. And he's crafted it himself, which I know is probably something that he's incredibly proud of. So, hi, Craig.
Hi, Greg. Yeah. He, that was my wise man. I like, I'm the tribal. He's the, like, listen, I don't appreciate what you did to me, but listen, I understand why I understand. And so, I mean, do we really want to talk about Logan Paul and AJ Styles? I mean,
no.
Okay, great.
All I want to talk about, like, the only thing I care about that came out of that is Karrion Kross just being hilarious, and now just beefing with AJ and calling him Alan constantly. Just throwing out the legal name, the whole deal. I love Karrion Kross. I just need more Karrion Kross yelling at Alan. That's the only thing that came out of it that I care about.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you ever notice about Karrion, his hairstyle kind of matches the person who he's talking to a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's like this, like I said, we're all playing checkers. This guy's playing chess. Like Karrion Kross, and then especially what he said. Listen, you push that guy to the moon, the orbit. I don't care how far you push him. It's going to be great.
I'm ready for it.
So speaking of great, before we put a button on this wonderful show, and Tanya, thank you for coming on before we get to this. Oh, like I say, she's been on she's kind of like the co-host. It's like if I get out of line, then there she is. That's the way I look at it.
Exactly.
It's all getting paperwork and legal stuff, and don't worry about it. John, Cody Rhodes, John Cena. Like, first of all, John Cena's entrance, he warned us, you're not gonna like it. Like, he comes out, you just see his name, you see the end is, which I'm probably gonna get a John Cena shirt, like just because out of respect for John. But your thoughts on the match? Because listen, a lot of people felt that. Look, people had thoughts. So I'm curious to get.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that people are so like thrown by John doing the things he's doing as a heel. And it's like guys, I know wrestling fans can get pedantic. I know when you've been watching the same person or the same kind of thing since you were like, 5 years old, you sometimes watch it as if you're still 10 years old, but grow up. He told you he was going to do. What did you think he was going to do? Come out to like flames? It's John Cena. He's going to come out and say, F you. That's his heel persona. He's made it clear what he's doing. So it always feels like performative whining to me. I think people just kind of want to whine on the internet. I loved Cody's entrance and his ring gear and his like Skull America is, the mask that like popped up. I like have a lot of gripes about Cody, but his ring gear is not one of them, especially when you get the like, the shoulder like lapel things with the eagle feathers. Dude's he's truly decked out when he comes out for these events, and I love that. The match sucked. I don't know. It wasn't There was no Rock. It was Travis Scott. Like, I don't think that we have to pretend it didn't suck. I don't think it did a lot. I think that I will say I was impressed with how much and how long John wrestled. And I think that that was a huge opportunity for him to be able to have that moment and have a real match. So I do think, like, to me, it was like, wow, good for him. Like, he really put in a lot of work into being ready to wrestle a lot longer than I would have expected. Obviously, like, to me, that match was, we're going to rely on Cody to like kind of sell it a little extra, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Cody's finishing moves, like, especially against dudes like Cena. Like, they don't always translate for me. So the match has to have a very specific cadence to it or a very specific storyline to it for me to be impressed. And a lot of what I was looking forward to in the match was what were the shenanigans that was going to happen that were going to cause Cena to win, because that's obviously what everybody thought was going to happen. I think nobody was surprised that that was what happened. I think we were surprised that it happened the way it did, that it was Travis Scott, that it was this boring, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares about Travis Scott. Nobody wants him there. We didn't want to hear that song for the 95,000th time. And him being the one to do it, it wasn't The Rock, or it wasn't a Rock adjacent minion that we cared about, right? Like, it was just, it fell really, really flat for me, especially because the rest of the night had actually been the crowd was much better night 2. Everybody was locked in. I thought the crowd was, like, for whatever reason, was just a lot more amped and hyped on night 2. Part of it could have been that it kicked off with a banger with the triple threat and they just kind of rode that high all the way through. But I thought all the matches themselves were just really well done. And so, like, while I want to give Cody and John credit for like wrestling longer, I mean, it really is impressive that John Cena was able to do that. I don't think people give these old guys enough credit for even like getting in the ring with so little time to like dedicate to it, right? Like, he's like, when The Rock or Cena wrestle, like, it's a lot on their bodies. And they are old and recovering from a lot of steroid use. Like, give them a break. So I really respect the effort there. I don't think it's on Cody and Cena that the match was a bummer. I think it's on the way that they decided to write the ending of it, because that felt like not WrestleMania worthy. And I've felt this a couple, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I felt a couple times at WrestleMania. It seems like they're saving stuff for later. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
you're supposed to do the thing at WrestleMania. We take
Right.
time off from work for this stuff. You take 2 days out of our goddamn weekend. People are paying, they're taking out loans to go to this show. We don't need to see this pay off at SummerSlam or what, like, we need to see the thing. The Rock needs to come out now. So that's how I felt.
Listen, before we put a button, because time is fleeting here. Like, listen, all I'm going to say is this: if you're doing a movie about a matches based, like, if this was like a movie, you could take out Travis Scott and nothing would change to me. That's all I'm going to say. Those are my closing thoughts. So,
well, I mean, because
Tanya,
like, nobody even cared that he was there in the first place. Like, nobody.
right?
But I swear to God, Darius, if I hear that song, I don't want to hear it again. I don't want to hear Fiend one more time in my life. And I'm going to make sure I couldn't get through the show without saying no more. Fiend needs to be gone. He needs to be retired.
And on that high note, we always end on high notes here. No low notes here. Not around here, player. We end on high notes around here.
Exactly.
So, Tanya, thank you so much, my friend, for being here. Always great to have you on. And before we go, where can the people find you?
Everywhere that you are on social media, I'm there at Tanya Ray Fox, and on YouTube, all the places, just all the places where there's content and social media, you can find me there, and you should.
Like, once again, thank you so much, Tanya, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening and/or watching. And folks, you know where to follow me. All the socials there. And until you see and hear me again, be real, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World podcast.